The Washington Redskins controversy has taken a big new turn this morning. The U.S. Patent Office has canceled the trademark on the team's name. The Patent Office says the Redskins' name is disparaging of Native Americans. That's a direct quote. Our Washington Bureau Chief, Jonathan Allen, happens to be here in New York City today. John, great to have you here. And on the phone, we have Amy Trask, the former longtime CEO of the Oakland Raiders. She's now an analyst for CBS Sports. And Mark Yusko, Morgan Creek Capital Management, my co-host for the hour, still here. Amy, we have to begin with you. This is not the first time that Native Americans have won a victory against the Redskins' name. However, given all the controversies swirling around the team and the owner, Dan Snyder, it does feel important. Tell us what you think.
Well, it is a significant decision, and it is a significant moment. The government has, in essence, said, look, we agree with the dictionary. The dictionary defines this word as a derogatory slur. We agree with that definition, and we are not going to protect the marks and logos any longer.
What does that mean, practically speaking, for a team like the Skins?
Well, a few things. There are going to be certain appellate rights, and the legal work has not been exhausted yet. I'm not a patent or trademark lawyer and really can't speak to that. But what it means is when all the appellate rights are exhausted, the federal government will no longer be affording its protection to the marks and logos, which means initially that others can go out and use those marks and logos for commercial gain, and the team and the league will not be able to stop that. You may also see fans starting to drift away from choosing to identify with that. At some point, you may see some drop-off in the sale of merchandise, perhaps more significantly, because some fans will always want to buy that merchandise. You may see corporations and businesses starting to walk away from wanting to identify with that now that the U.S. government has spoken and said, yep, it's a disparaging slur.
John, you could make a living writing in Washington about Dan Snyder exclusively.
I could definitely do that, and fortunately, I have other things to cover at times. He can be a difficult interview, I'm told. But I think Amy's dead on here. What's really going on is the Patent and Trade Office is putting economic pressure on the Washington football team, on Daniel Snyder, and the NFL, which can then put more pressure on Daniel Snyder to just drop this name. There's an appellate process. This could go to the federal courts. That's happened before in this particular type of case against the team name. So this is the beginning step.
Important to point out, the Skins won that appeal the last time around.
Right, that's right. But look, if you're Daniel Snyder, at some point you would think that this is becoming untenable. You've got 50 United States.
You would think.
You've got 50 United States senators that have sent you a letter. I've lived in Washington my whole life. I grew up as a fan of this team. I would say most of my socially conscious friends in Washington would like to see the team name changed. You look even at the logo. The logo is a caricature, and so I think ultimately there's going to be a lot of pressure on Dan Snyder to change this.
I think Erik made a good point earlier that some of the other caricatures in teams are even worse. Cleveland Indians, some might argue the Braves versus, this seems pretty natural, but it's a controversial topic.
Yeah, and I would say that I think the direction we're moving in, we're probably not going to look for the lowest common denominator in team names in the future, right? What's the worst one that we can measure this by?
Yeah, good point.
I think he'll eventually have to change it, but it may be a while. Dan Snyder's a pretty stubborn CEO, and he likes to run his place.
At some point, though, men, irrespective of the stubborn factor you just noted, at some point, though, the league as a whole needs to, and perhaps will say, enough.
Amy, you would know. What power does the league have to do that? Let's just think for a moment about what just transpired with the Clippers in Los Angeles, right? We know that the league had only certain powers that it could exercise. It exercised them. There's still no resolution there. What could the league do in this case?
Well, I think the greatest power and the greatest strength that the league will have comes not from its legal rights, but from the pressure that those owners can exert on other owners. And let me tell you, that is significant, significant pressure. When you're in that room and there are 32 owners, if at some point 31 of them or even 24 of them say, this simply isn't okay, then Dan Snyder is going to have to decide that legal rights notwithstanding, whether he wants to have an issue as between him and the other owner.
So here's the key question. We know that Adam Silver stepped in and, by all accounts, did the right thing for the NBA. Is Roger Goodell, you know him, is he going to do that for the Skins in the NFL?
You know, I would have thought so. I still hope so. I've been, I don't want to say surprised, but the league's position on this has been duly noted. That not only has the league stepped back and said we're not going to get involved, the league has been affirmatively advancing the same argument that the Washington team has been advancing. So, you know, I do have confidence that the league has the ability to do the right thing. I do hope it will do the right thing. And remember one other thing from an economic standpoint. The league has a pretty nifty tool in its arsenal, which is they can amortize, if you will, the expenses associated with the name change over all 32 clubs.
Amy, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Great of you to join us on the phone. Amy Trask, the former CEO of the Oakland Raiders. Jonathan Allen, our bureau chief from Washington. And Mark, I have to thank you. It's such a quick one.